Me here on Alyssa Jean's Reviews. My name is Alyssa, and this is our discussion on Marvel's What If Season 1, Episode 7. What if Thor were an only child? Also, could be alternatively called What if all the characters from the Thor movies and the Guardians of the Galaxy movies all got together and had a huge rager on Earth? So that. A big party on Earth. They didn't invite Zemo. I don't know why Zemo wasn't there to do his dance moves, but you had to be in the Thor, basically the Thor movies or the Guardians of the Galaxy movies mostly. Anyways, I want to welcome my guest this week. As usual, Marc from Enchantment of Eternity is with me. Say hello, Marc.
Hello and party on, dude.
Party on, Marc. There's Brandon. Thank you for joining us, Brandon. How's it going? And special guest this week. And you may, if anyone was actually paying attention to what I said at the end of last week, I said Darren would be here this week, but unfortunately Darren was not able to make it for the live stream. He may pop in for the chat a little bit. But I wanted to give a big thanks to Rob from Smirking Gun Reviews for stepping in. And Rob originally wasn't available, and now he is available. And so it's good to, now Darren and Rob each get two. So it worked out. So, so it's all even. So thank you, Rob. I want to say hello.
Yeah, no sweat. I wasn't doing anything, and I as soon as I heard that Darren was, had some issues getting here, I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, I don't know what I'll bring to the table, but I am really curious to what you all think about this episode. So I'm actually really curious. So I'm glad I'm here.
All right. Well, we'll start with our thoughts about the episode and usually start with the guest. So I'll start with you, Rob. What were your thoughts?
Okay. Well, I actually kind of had a breakthrough today when I was sitting down to watch it for a second time. And I was like, man, really? Am I going to watch this a second time? Can I watch this a second time? And I kind of thought of it along the terms of, did they succeed as a review? I was like, you know what, really review it instead of thinking about what you think about it, right? Think about what you think about it, but as an episode, did they accomplish what they were trying to do, right? Like actually just look at it. We always say the same things. The animation is fantastic. You get a voice cast back. It's always pretty good when you get the regular people back. If their goal was to make a Looney Tunes cartoon meets John Hughes, then they succeeded across the board. But I hated it. And that's I didn't care. I didn't laugh. I didn't like it at pretty much at all. But like I said, if I really look at it and you get rid of my personal feelings about it, did they accomplish what they set forward to do? And I could tell what they were doing. I could tell what they were going for, and they did it. They did an excellent job at making that what I said. John Hughes meets Looney Tunes. And I was like, fine. I don't like it, but they accomplished it. It's like my same for my review for A Star is Born. Don't like Lady Gaga's music, but I thought, wow, you know what? I can really appreciate the work that went into it. And they did what that movie did what it's supposed to do. And I applaud the work that went into it. It's just not for me. And this episode was so not for me. And I love the Looney Tunes, but I don't like it. But I don't like it in my Marvel.
You can see that. Oh, before we go over to Marc, I want to say hello to Allison in the chat. Good to see you again, Allison. Yeah, I mean, fair enough. Marc, your thoughts.
Rob, how dare you? This episode was amazing. No, I'm kidding. Your review on this episode is actually very similar, almost exact to my review of the zombie episode. like I see what you're trying to do and you accomplished it well, but it's not for me. This one didn't bother me as much, but it is Yeah, it was. I don't really see this. Like, people complain about, like, all the, whatever haters of new Star Trek will complain about how the fuck does Lower Decks fit into Star Trek canon because it's so ridiculous and silly. I never really had a problem with that. Kind of have a problem with that with this episode, how that fits into MCU canon, because it is Looney Tunes. It was like way too over the top. So if I try to divorce myself, and I guess the in-universe excuse you could use in your head is that, well, this is just a different universe. It's not taking place in our universe. But even so, it's like, really, there's another universe where all the Marvel characters act like like cartoon Looney Tune type silly characters, and like they're in a cheesy 80s teenage like party movie. Like, it's like they were hitting all the cliches of that. And so even with the in-universe excuse, it's like, this is way too over the top. And it's funny because remember we talked about episode 2 with T'Challa Star-Lord. It's like, oh, this is silly, this is over the top. That was like at a 6. This is like at a 11. This is like much more like silly and ridiculous and over the top. And I do agree it was too much. I will say there were some moments that made me laugh. There were some moments where I thought it was hilarious, but when I look at the episode overall, barring that final scene, if I look at the episode overall, I think, yeah, that was stupid. That was just too ridiculous. But anyway, I didn't hate it. I wouldn't say is my least favorite, still the zombie one, but this would probably be my second least favorite after that. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna be Darren from a couple weeks ago on the zombie one. I'm gonna be the most positive one. I'm gonna say I had fun with it. It was a fun episode for me. I kind of expected myself to be the only one to say that. I kind of predicted both of you would come on and say the things that you said, and that's fair. Like, I definitely, I can't fault either of those points of view at all. That's a perfectly reasonable way to respond to this episode. I just kind of went into it like, never took it too seriously and just rolled with it and had fun. And to me, it was, you're right, it was more over the top than the T'Challa one, but I kind of liken it to the T'Challa one as well, which I also had a lot of fun with. This one was definitely more, a little more over the top than that for sure. But to me, there was peas in the pod. I thought there was nice, they're a nice way to break up all the dark episodes. All the other episodes are pretty dark. You've got Doctor Strange destroying the whole universe. You got the Avengers being murdered. You've got zombies, and you've got Killmonger killing Tony Stark and taking over Wakanda. So I don't know. I just decided not to take it seriously and roll with it. And it's funny, Mark, you mentioned Lower Decks, because to me, this was the Marvel's universe version of Lower Decks. When I felt like I was very much watching a Star Trek Lower Decks episode, especially the part where that, forget the name of the dude from Ragnarok who goes up and puts his arm around the Statue of Liberty. I felt like I was watching a Lower Decks episode in that. And I definitely see the Looney Tunes as well. But to me, I was just thinking of it in those terms, and I was able to enjoy it that way. I had fun with the episode, but I don't fault you for not having fun with the episode. I can definitely understand that reaction as well. I just decided not to take it that seriously and just rolled with it. But
I did have fun with it too. I did think there were some parts where I was laughing out loud. I thought it was hilarious. Just overall, I thought it was just a bit too ridiculous, like even more so than Lower Decks, at least for me.
Yeah, I mean, there's some elements in here that I dug. There were some things that started out good and then they wore out their welcome. There was one joke I liked that I did find myself I chuckled and I was like, wow, you did laugh. You did laugh once. I really thought like I don't want to break it up. I'll let you like divvy this episode up how you want, because like you said, it's kind of hard to talk about this structurally because there's not really a plot. It's just an event happens and then it ends. I just put it simply, something happens and then it ends. But I knew going in that it was going to be Bro Thor, but I just didn't know that. It just felt like everybody's stupidity got knocked up to like you said, 11. Like everybody that like has normal ways of thinking about things just completely like their brains melted. And I felt like Maria Hill was the only person that was sane in this episode. And I loved that because they actually, for me, they actually got Maria Hill right in this episode. She's the Maria Hill that I remember from comics and the cartoons. She's when Fury's out of the way, when Fury's not in charge and she's in charge, things are like taken very seriously. People don't like her very much because she takes her job so seriously. And I was like, dang, they nailed that. I was really happy with Kobe Smulders in this. She got to actually be Maria Hill from the comics and not just the MCU version of her, like the potential for this character. But then just they have everything else, like even, and you know, like when Surtur went up by the Statue of Liberty, that's when I just really was like, oh, F this. Like they're not going to take it, like they're not taking any of this like at all seriously. And that's when I knew this is just plain old Looney Tunes and I'm not supposed to take it seriously. But then I just realized that I didn't care about anything that happens, because if they're not caring, then how can I care? And can I have fun with this? And I kept trying to find stuff that would bring me back. And I thought maybe when Jane went to see Thor's mom, like things would change, and it didn't. And I don't know. In the end, I just felt like I kind of felt insulted for a lot of the characters. I felt like I don't know if some of this was like an answer to other things, or if they were trying to mock some of the ways that people felt about things like Captain Marvel or Jane, or I thought maybe is this trying to prepare us for what we're going to see in Thor Love and Thunder? Are they trying to test the bounds of how stupid you can make Thor? Because I think that they did a really good job throughout the series, where they started with Thor and where they've ended with Thor. And I thought Ragnarok really was like a great balance to show the serious and the funny side of Thor. And then they give us this, and it just went so far bananas that I couldn't with it anymore. Once I saw Surtur, I was like, I'm done.
Well, I gotta talk about that because it's funny you mentioned that, and Alyssa also mentioned that, you know, the giant demon flirting with the Statue of Liberty. I actually thought that was hilarious. To me, that was bar none the funniest part of the episode. I was laughing hysterically. I was like rolling on the ground laughing, and I can understand your reaction to that, Rob. It's because it is absolutely ridiculous, and it's hard to put it into canon. But I personally I didn't care. I thought it was funny as hell. But that's just me.
Well, that was the one scene I said reminded me exactly of Star Trek Lower Decks. It actually reminded me specifically of when they prank called Armus last week. It was
really?
in that same vein. And also, I just wanted to foreshadow something I wanted to talk about. Actually, something that Marie Hill did in the episode is like my least favorite part of the whole episode. But I will get to that in a minute. I wanted to talk seriously though about putting aside all of the ridiculousness. Let's just looking at Thor. So the premise of this is what if he was an only child? So I just kind of wanted your guys' thoughts on if that is a reasonable outcome, putting aside like all the absolute like insanity and over the topness of the episode, but just do you think that Loki not being present through Thor's journey would cause him to be a little more, a little more immature, a little less, giving a shit, and maybe not to this extreme. Maybe they went overboard. Or do you think the whole premise of Loki's presence changing Thor that much is just ridiculous? I'm just curious. I'm actually gonna get your guys' thoughts first, and then I'll tell you what I think. We'll start with Mark this time.
Yeah, I was actually gonna bring this up because this was a major critique or thing that I thought about this episode, is that I did not think that this is what Thor would be like if Loki wasn't around. Would he? I mean, is it possible without? Because I understand the premise that Loki's so mischievous that Thor has to be the counterbalance that's going to make him be more serious and more of the good son type thing. But I don't buy. I think it's completely out of character that he would be this apathetic or this, oh, let's just party, yo, let's sneak out. It was too much of John Hughes maybe. I could see maybe a toned down version of Thor being a little bit more mischievous because Loki's not around, but I completely and utterly do not buy. And I that's my biggest gripe with this episode, is I think the premise is, I don't buy it, and I think it's just there so they can have a ridiculous, fun, over the top episode. But yeah, that's my thought on that.
What about you, Rob?
First, I just want to. I keep forgetting to bring up the fact that I'm wearing the same shirt that Mark Ruffalo wore in Ragnarok. I've got my Duran Duran Rio shirt on to honor a much better version of Thor. I agree with you, Mark. I don't see. I think they just wanted an excuse. I think they just used it as an excuse to tell the story that they wanted to tell. Because it's not just Thor that changes; it's Loki that changes. I mean, I don't buy. I know that Odin's not the best dad, but he seems like he's the kind of guy that when he's around and when he's awake, right? They were all waiting for him to go to bed, right? Which was another kind of weird moment. Like they're literally waiting to hear him start snoring almost before they both dipped, right? She's the one who actually took off first. Like, oh, I'm off to go get, drunk with the ladies. So it seems to me like he's and later they're like, you sound like Odin. Like, I think Odin would be on him. And from Thor's memories of young Loki, he tortured him quite a bit. There's that time you turned me into a frog, So I feel like they used that premise as an excuse, and also just because Loki is everywhere right now, and they wanted another reason to just keep people's thinking about Loki a little bit. That's small potatoes, but I just also Loki's upbringing as an ice giant would be probably pretty awful, and not leaning towards any kind of bro attitude, where he comes from. And was it Niflheim? It's a pretty brutal place, and maybe he wants to get out and party once in a while, but would he even really be thinking about this? And aren't they enemies? And it just seemed like everybody just put aside all their their feelings for each other because somebody said we're having a party. And I just felt like everybody was just acting out of character, and they used that as an excuse. I think that Thor maybe would be a little bit not on, a little less serious, but I just don't buy his complete dive into frat boy mentality. And I guess that's as far as I need to take it.
Yeah, I thought it was. I think you guys both make good points. I thought it was a little hyperbolic. I thought it was a little bit too extreme. I actually think of him more that Thor probably would have been. He probably been more similar to what he was at the beginning of the Thor movie, the first Thor movie, where he's just kind of a hothead and just very arrogant, and I think he might have just stayed that way because in Loki was a key part to him, like evolving. Loki was very much involved in all of that. He's kind of the reason why Thor had, learned the lessons that he did. I don't know if he would have without Loki. So I kind of think he more would have just stayed the way he was at the beginning of the Thor movie and not necessarily, which I think that version of Thor was probably more of a partier. I don't know if we saw it on screen, but not to that extreme. I think they definitely took it to the extreme. I think he would have been different, but I think toned down a lot from what he is in this episode. I think it was definitely hyperbole. That they took it very far. But as I said, I decided from the beginning I'm not taking this episode seriously, and I just had fun with it. But I definitely I was just curious what you guys thought about what they did with Thor there. But yeah.
Well, also only children, right? There's always that, oh, he's an only child. Like you can tell that person's an only child. And I'm sure that not every only, one child family is the same all the time. But I always feel like the stories that I've heard about only children, one kid families, is that kid's usually kind of different, but not in the more like outgoing party way. I've always noticed that it's a little more introspective, a little more like the parents kind of are more into that person's life. And I don't know, it just feels like that in this case, the parents went the other way where it sounds like he's always in trouble. And I don't know. It's just not been my experience that's the way it goes with only childs.
I mean, I'm gonna say that I think where the episode lost me with Thor, like I was kind of buying some of it until like he was putting Earth in danger, and like she was saying, oh, this party is putting Earth in danger, whatever, blah blah, and he didn't give a shit, and he just like, oh, I just want to hide at this planet and fuck what happens because I want to partay. Like that was too much. That was a bridge too high for me.
Definitely. It was like, yeah, he didn't give two fucks about it.
Yeah.
Like he came there and he was.
Oh, but he was fighting Captain Marvel. I mean, she was like, "You're hurting this planet," and he's like, "Oh, you're a party pooper." Like, I didn't buy that.
Yeah, but I thought it was more that not that he didn't give a fuck. That he's just like they portrayed him like a teenager from a John Hughes movie. He just didn't really. He was a child. Like he had a childlike mind. I don't think he really understood the consequences of his action. It's not that he doesn't care about people. That's how I read it.
Yeah, he didn't think that he was doing any harm. He thought that it was, everybody would just go along with it. And for the most part, people did. But that's, localized, like I thought Vegas was a pretty good place to have this happen. Because, you just drop down in the middle of New York, which then things I think would have gotten interesting. And I'm pretty sure that I'm not the only one who watches more than one video on this topic, and I was thinking about like where was some of the other people like involved in this? Where's Iron Man? Like wouldn't Iron Man want to, if this is around Iron Man 2 time, like wouldn't Tony want to drop by for a few hundred cocktails? Like I thought that would have been interesting to see, like what would Tony think of all this? Also,
Iron Man was probably dead based on all the other What If episodes. Like he's died in every one he's been in so far. So I'm assuming he died in this universe too. But but who knows? I don't know. This is a good point.
Well, I would say it's a 30-minute episode. You can't have every character in it.
Yeah, Brandon in the chat saying a Bifrost too far. I like that. That was really good. Yeah, I'll say the one thing that made me laugh was the I only boom when I'm alone. That made me laugh when they're like, "Did you boom?" No, I didn't boom. You always boom. Oh no, I never boom. I only boom by myself.
I don't even remember that. Who said that?
Thor did when
Captain
okay.
Marvel was about to arrive.
Yeah, I remember the boom that like wasn't their boom, but I didn't remember that line. I've only seen it once.
That made me laugh. Like I actually laughed at that because it was just the way that their repartee back and forth real quick was. But again, it was like juvenile, and I think maybe that it caught me off guard because I just didn't expect them to make that type of joke, and what it really felt like a real kid episode. Like you said, he's kind of acting like a kid, and I feel like everybody just dropped down to like 13, 14-year-old mentality in this. Even, super, astrophysicist Jane Foster, who we all know she likes Thor, right? But she just, but she didn't turn into like a bubbling, idiot. And she does she does try to stay the core, like kind of correct, but she got caught up for a good chunk of it. And then after the fact, the hangover the next day makes you realize, okay, wait, we got to get this under control. But I think there was another line. It did make me laugh. But when Captain Marvel told Darcy she's at like an 8 and she needs her at a 4, I was like, somebody finally said it.
Yeah. Oh, I want to say hello to Darren from D's Reviews. This is popping in. Thanks for joining us, Darren. Yeah, very true. I don't know. WandaVision, I did not like Darcy before, but WandaVision has made me a fan of her for some reason. So, and I think someone in the chat mentioned earlier, Brandon mentioned earlier, her getting married to Howard the Duck, which I actually didn't catch the first time. I just saw the Elvis guy, and then I only saw, I watched all the YouTube videos and they showed that scene. I was like, oh, I didn't even see Howard the Duck standing there when I first saw it.
I was the same way. I didn't notice that until I watched YouTube videos that pointed it out. I was like, oh, really? She married Howard the Duck.
And I agree. Like, Darcy's grown on me because of WandaVision, but she was relentless in this 30-minute episode. And by the end, like where she started with me, where I was like, fine, when she finally put her in her place, and she still just looked all happy to be put in her place by Captain Marvel. That had been like where I had reached my limit. Another person I thought wasn't very well written, I'll say, was Frank Grillo's character, the guy from Hydra. I thought like his banging on the door, like this is shit, like it just felt really poorly written. His shield character, his shield / Hydra character. I thought that guy is usually much better in these things, in his little bit parts in the MCU after the fact. And there was I had some real kind of, I don't know. I didn't know what they were trying to say with Captain Marvel. There was like Caravan of Garbage, the Mr. Sunday Movies guys that were talking about it, and they were like, it just felt like they were trying to, like, I don't know if they were making fun of the people who made fun of Captain, like Brie Larson or Captain Marvel, and also kind of made fun of Natalie Portman, how she's going to be like the new, going to be female Thor. I couldn't tell if that's what they were going for in some of this, if they were trying to answer back to that criticism of it and kind of troll the trolls in a little way, especially with Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
Even though I really dug their fight, their actual fight, I thought was fun. And I did enjoy it, but it did get to, like you said, too much.
So, Rob, you've jumped into what was going to be my next topic, okay. So we can roll with it. I did want to talk about the Captain Marvel of it all because, as I said, I decided I'm not taking this episode that seriously. I was rolling with it, having fun with it. But when Marie Hill used the pager for Captain Marvel just because of dude having a party. I mean, I know it's causing damage, but it's as far as I know, nobody died. I didn't hear about anyone dying. It's just destroying national monuments. Yeah. So the just destroy. So when she first all right, I'll let you guys have your fun with your trailers.
I'm listening.
You're distracted.
Sorry.
Yeah, when Marie Hill first used the pager for Captain Marvel, I was like, really? Because I mean, nobody's dying. Like, it's for a guy having a party. And then I was like, you know what? This once I saw the scene, I was like, this is fun. Like, I love the fight, and I love this is when it really got Looney Tunes when they punch each other across the planet, and they would go up and you would see like the word France beneath them. That was like, okay, we're watching Looney Tunes now. And that was fun. What actually was the bridge too far for me was Marie Hill deciding to nuke Thor. I'm like, really? You're nuking a god of Asgard because he's having a party? Nobody's dead. He's just destroying some freaking monuments. Whatever. They're defacing the Mount Rushmore. Statue of Liberty, whatever, you're going to nuke him. Not to mention the consequences. How's Asgard, what's Odin going to feel like when he wakes up? How's Asgard going to respond to them for nuking their son? Like, I thought that was actually the one thing in the episode was a bridge too far for me. Like, that's too much. Like, you're going to nuke Thor over. I decided to roll with it. I thought, when they first called Captain Marvel, I thought that was a bit much. But then it was such a fun scene that I decided to go with it. But trying to nuke him just seemed like they were trying to create this false timer, like this false sense of tension. Like there's this timer for, Jane to go and get Thor's mom, which I also thought, like, when that was happening, I was like, they don't have enough time. She doesn't have enough time to get to Thor's mom and for Thor's mom to contact Thor. But somehow they did it in time. Because it was like, we've got 5 seconds left on our countdown, and Jane was like just arriving to where Thor's mom was. I was like, she doesn't have the time to. But I thought it was like trying to create this phony, tension there. That I thought that the nuking thing was a bit much for me. But overall, I did actually just roll with it again with the Captain Marvel thing. I don't know, Mark. What are your thoughts?
So first of all, the Captain Marvel Thor fight scene was my least favorite part of the episode. I agree with you, it was the most Looney Tunes, and that's why I didn't like it. It lost me, especially that whole where you can see the word France. I'm like, oh, so this is Looney Tunes now. This is just straight up like, and people try to say, ooh, so this is what it's like if Thor and Captain Marvel actually tried to fight and who's stronger. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's just a goofy, cartoonish, over the top. It doesn't really tell you what the actual fight between these characters would be like. And I completely agree with what you said about how the pager in the first place, like calling her, really, you're gonna call her over this? Like fucking like Loki and the Avengers taking over New York City. That no, you don't call him for that. Thanos coming, you don't call her for that. But the fucking God. Thor having a party, let's call Captain Marvel. I'm like, yeah, that's them. And her whole, like, yeah, the whole way that she interacted with Thor, it was just like, oh, I'm big, mean. It was like, I don't know. That's where this episode really lost me. I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it. I will say that I didn't have a problem with them trying to nuke Thor, because it is a stupid move, but it seems in character for S.H.I.E.L.D. to do stupid shit like that. Like they're trying to nuke New York in the Avengers movie and kill all these people. So it seemed in character for S.H.I.E.L.D. to do something
nuking
stupid.
New York in the Avengers movie is a lot different than nuking a dude for having a party who's not threatening anybody.
Well, I want to ask Rob something, because you've seen this episode twice. I've only seen it once. I seem to recall them mentioning towards the beginning of the episode at the S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters that Thor's parties was causing havoc on Earth, and it seemed like there was like a crisis that was going on. Do you remember that at all?
I know that they were talking about like another planet where something happened, and there was something had happened somewhere else.
Well, no, that was
Oh.
like Jane brought that up, but I'm talking like at the
Yeah.
Shield headquarters.
They were looking.
Like,
I know what you're talking about, Mark. They were looking at
yeah.
like a map of the U.S. of the
Map,
world, and they had
yeah.
all the different things. They never said anybody died. It just looked like
But they seemed really concerned that it was
Yeah.
going to cause like
It looked like
damage.
cartoon level stuff, like Looney Tunes level stuff was happening.
I don't know.
I tried to like if you try to assign characters to be characters from Ferris Bueller, right? Because this is kind of like what it was, like Ferris Bueller's Big Day Off. Including the whole time it took for, like her to get there. Felt like the slow motion scenes of him running back to home to beat his sister there. I felt like Captain Marvel could be kind of seen as the sister in Ferris Bueller. I think you could see Maria Hill as Rooney, which is why I was like, if I'm assigning these John Hughes roles to these characters, and also why the nukes, right? They had to get Nick Fury out of the way for that to happen. Because if Nick Fury's in charge, he doesn't fire any nukes. He would like look at the Avengers episode where everybody was getting killed. He got to work. He worked with Loki before he went. Like he still kept all that stuff kind of tight and close. He was still being a spy about things. So you got to remove that person who will think more like that. Maria Hill in the comics is more of the person who would go, the boss is away. I'm going to hit the alarm. I'm going to take this like super seriously. Nick would not have called Captain Marvel. He could have called her in the Avengers episode, but he didn't. He decided to use his brain, and Maria was a lot more like rash. And I think that tracks for her character. Firing the nuke is extreme, but at this point, I mean, it's like she's like, I mean, as glib as she was about Captain Marvel will be fine. But also, it was the World Council that fired on New York and not S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick was against it.
Okay, true, but yeah, I don't know.
But I don't know.
Seems like S.H.I.E.L.D. has done stupid things.
Oh, S.H.I.E.L.D. has done some stupid things, but not in this case. I mean,
especially at this stage where they're still kind of got that Hydra control.
Yeah, they haven't even exposed Hydra yet.
Yeah, but I did want to talk about you brought up Nick Fury, so I wanted to talk about the scene where Korg like cannonballs and knocks him out. I got two things to say about the scene. I thought it was hilarious. I actually loved it that's how Nick Fury got injured. But the second thing I had to say, this is what hurts the episode, and this is why this is not a good episode, because they did not get Taika Waititi to reprise his role as Korg and have some actually Korg lines with Taika Waititi. If they would have done that, then I would have been able to forgive any of this episode's flaws. We needed more Korg, but I did like that cannonball scene.
I agreed. I actually felt the same way about Drax in the T'Challa episode. We do get up a little bit more of him here, but like in the T'Challa episode, I thought that Drax wasn't Drax to me. He didn't sound anything like him. But here, like, why even have Korg if you can't get? I'm sorry,
Taika Waititi.
Yeah, I was forget how to pronounce his name, but yeah, if you can't get him, then why even have Korg?
Darren brings up a good point here about that the threat was probably spreading because as the party grew and more aliens were coming, that's probably was because remember by the end of the episode, Loki had gone to St. Louis and upended the arch to make a slingshot. So they, as the party went on, they had started to like probably lose interest. Like, let's see what else is here, And so, that's probably what they meant.
So, but you know what? Even let's say that like this party is now causing some serious damage. How is nuking Thor going to solve your problems? All those aliens are still there. They're going to be pissed you killed the head of their party. Odin, like I said, is going to be pissed when he wakes up. You're making things worse by nuking Thor. Like, that
Well,
just
here's you
doesn't
know
make
what?
sense.
Because it's a cartoon, and I mean, no. I mean, like literally, since this one is following Looney Tunes cartoon rules, they'd have dropped the nuke, and his face would have been black, and he would have burnt smoke. He would have burnt smoke, and he would have just been fine. It would have been just like injuring Tom and Jerry or Yosemite Sam or Elmer Fudd. They would just do like a spring thing and they'd be fine.
Yeah.
Oh, one thing I did want to say is the with all the monuments, like using the St. Louis Arch as a slingshot and the messing with the Statue of Liberty, and especially when he like rutted the Leaning Tower of Pisa, it reminded me of Superman 3 when Superman turned evil and he went out and messed up all the monuments and he like made the Leaning Tower of Pisa straight. That's exactly what I thought of. It's this level of comedy genius that this episode has. Superman 3. Yeah. Anyway,
one of the videos that I YouTube videos that I watched did actually show that Superman scene.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, it was very much like, so I'm just trying to Google real quick because Brandon thinks that Taki Waititi was credited among the voices. I thought Mark was right. I didn't think he was.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I certainly didn't hear his voice.
I don't think Cord talked in this episode.
I don't
he had
think
a pacifier in his mouth.
Yeah, he never talked. Oh wait.
Oh, did it? Maybe he said like cannonball or something like that when he went and ran, but that was like it.
I was just trying to look it up really quickly.
Speaking of voices, did anybody else like? I felt like the Captain Marvel actress, like Lake Bell before with Scarlett Johansson. I don't think Captain Marvel sounded anything like Brie Larson at all. Like, wasn't even attempting to sound like it. I was in the minority on that one though. When we were talking about it, I actually thought Lake Bell did pretty good, Scarlett Johansson, because I just thought that they both kind of have the huskiness of their voice. But that, again, just my own personal. But I just found like that they could have done better with the voice casting of people this episode that wasn't already jam-packed with so many stars. It's not like that the voice actor's bad. It's just that if you're going to do an impression, find somebody who can do an impression over a little bit.
So that's better. Interesting because I thought it was Brie Larson. It sounded
like
her to me.
Oh, really? Yeah.
It sounded like her to me.
I knew that it wasn't Brie Larson, but I thought she sounded more like Brie Larson than I still think that Lake Bell in that Scarlett Johansson episode sounded absolutely nothing like her. It was hard for me to think that this was Black Widow because first of all, she was drawn differently, but also she sounded in her cadence and the way she talked sounded absolutely nothing like Black Widow to me. Where here, this sounded like, even though she didn't sound exactly like Brie Larson, this sounded like Captain Marvel would sound to me. And
okay, yeah. Like if you don't care about the actor who plays them, then yeah, I mean, she does sound like what Captain Marvel could sound like outside of it. Like if this was another Marvel animated property and there was no Brie Larson, for context or anything, I can see that. She did kind of have that kind of still, I don't know how to describe it. I've always thought of Captain Marvel as one of the guys. She's always been, she comes from the military. She's used to being around guys. She's in the comics. She's hung out with Captain America and Wolverine. They've done all sorts of crazy stuff together. So the way that she kind of talks matter of factly, I really liked that in this. And even though that fight did get too crazy, there were moments of that fight that I thought, man, if they just took this down to, if they weren't punching each other literally across the globe, some of this fight could have been really, this episode could have I don't know, there was a way to rein this in and they just decided not to let any of it rein in and they just let all of the insanity out. Like we said, it went too far.
All right, well, Well, as Brandon's pointing out in the chat, and I just looked up for myself, apparently Taika Waititi is credited as being in this episode.
Yeah, and I had just looked it up on IMDb as
that's,
well. He is
That's,
credited.
I think he just said one word though. Like we didn't get any Korg spiels. Out of it.
Okay. It's not that he wasn't cast; it was just that Korg didn't talk enough.
Yeah,
like we didn't get any of the classic Korg type of banter. You can't. Why are you even going to bother casting him for?
They've done that.
All you have to do is have them. Have an email and just send us an email with a voice recording of you saying one word, which is pretty much what they did for Jeff Goldblum as well. He had like one line in this and he was credited.
yeah. There's like Toby Jones in the first episode. Also, from that episode, Stanley Tucci has one line. Toby Jones has like one line. They've got a lot of people in across the board on this series that just throw out one line that they literally could have just called them on their cell phone. Yeah, like just say this as this,
and we'll give you thousands of dollars.
Yeah, and we'll make you look really good animated.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Just to clear up the confusion in the chat, Brandon says depends on which source you trust more. No. I'm saying they said the same thing. IMDb, Wikipedia, and whatever Mark looked up all said that Taika Waititi was.
I actually just got off the phone with Taika Waititi, and he's like, "Yeah, man, I said like a lot of stuff, and they only used the one line."
Yeah.
Sorry.
I still say it's a shame in this episode we didn't get more Korg.
I agree. Just saying Cannonball isn't enough.
Yeah.
But I did think it was funny that's how Nick.
No, that was a funny scene. Yes, I will say.
All right. I wanted to talk about the ending, but did you guys have anything else you wanted to?
Well, one last thing
before we get to that.
Well, not rant, but one last thing I want to throw out that I personally thought was funny was the banter between. I actually liked Jane Foster's portrayal in this episode, and I thought it actually was true to her character. And I like sort of the scene where she's at S.H.I.E.L.D. and trying to hide the fact that Thor was slept in her house, and she was like, "Oh, where he left without saying," and stuff like that. I thought was funny. And as you mentioned, the interaction with Darcy there, where she was like sort of like giving her shit about that. I thought that kind of banter, that stuff with her worked for me. The stuff with her retrieving Thor's mother was like a John Hughes movie, ridiculous nonsense. That was way over the top for me. Like, "Oh, Thor, are you having a party?" And the whole, especially that scene where he's like studying the study group, that's like straight out of a fucking I think Ferris Bueller's Days Off or any of these like 80s party movies. Like that was too much for me.
A sitcom, really. I mean,
sitcom. Yeah.
How many times has like the Thievers or the Keatons or the kids from Full House done something where they've got a clock on and the parents walk in and you know the closet is filled with junk and the carpet's got like people are hiding behind curtains and things like that. It's all over the place. Yeah, that example exists.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say too, Mark. I did actually like Jane Foster in this as well. Yeah, and it was actually Natalie Portman. I wasn't sure at first. I was like wondering if they would get the same person who voiced Padme in the Clone Wars, but
right.
But they didn't. They actually got Natalie Portman.
Yeah, at first, I didn't think it was Natalie Portman, but then I looked it up and saw it was while I was watching episodes. Like, oh shit, it is Natalie Portman.
No, I actually thought it might have been the same person who voiced Padme in the Clone Wars. It was not. It was actually Natalie Portman.
Yeah, I was actually really surprised that they got her. I know that was game and is in Thor: Love and Thunder, but I felt like that was more like they finally just backed up that truck full of money and said, "We need you," And she's like, "Oh, okay, that truck is the right size of money, has the right amount of money inside it for me to do this." So I thought it was nice that she was game to do this because I mean she's an Oscar winner, isn't she?
Maybe she was at least nominated.
And she won for Black Swan. Yeah, she won for Black Swan.
Did she? Okay.
Yeah. And I'm like, wow, she's a genuine Oscar winner, willing to be, play the same character for like the third time, because I don't think she was back in Ragnarok.
I mean, there's a lot of Oscar winners in the MCU.
Yeah, but
Anthony Hopkins. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I mean, like in our major players, like
yeah, for an Oscar winner to do a silly animated episode like this, there definitely was a truckload of money. And I did just confirm real quick that you are correct. She did win Black Swan 2010.
Oh, she did. Okay.
Okay.
2010. Damn, I'm getting old.
I know. That's what I feel whenever I hear about something from 2010. I was like, but that was yesterday.
Lost ended in 2010. Sorry to bring
it up.
Oh my God. Yeah, stop it.
We have, there's now been more time since Lost ended than Lost was ever on. Like, I think almost
so old.
I think we're getting
anyway.
To double. Anyways. Yeah, let's move on. I do want to talk about the ending, because this is when they actually get serious and they're connecting to the rest of the What If universe, and we know, or the What If series, I should say, it's a multiverse. I already know that Party Thor is going to be in the final episode. We've seen in the trailer. It seems like they're bringing back T'Challa, Star-Lord, Captain Peggy Carter, and even the evil Doctor Strange. And I think next week we're getting Gamora, and so then she's going to come back the week after in the finale, it looks like. So there's going to be like a Guardians of the Multiverse type thing. So I already kind of knew that was happening, but this seems to be, I was surprised that they set up for it in another episode. And I had vaguely heard about some kind of Ultron / Vision being who was going to threaten the multiverse, and that's what the final episode is going to be about. Sorry for spoilers, but this is stuff that I've heard. That's vaguely what it's going to be about. And then so we see that here, and he has looks like he's got all the Infinity Stones. And the interesting part about that is, to me, is the Watcher was surprised by that. He was taken off guard. He was like, "Oh, and they live happily ever after." And what? So this is definitely a multiversal threat that they are setting up for. I thought this was an interesting episode for them to do that setup in. Like, of all the episodes that they could have, because they're all going to tie together. But of all the episodes to put that in, this was an odd one to throw that in at the end. A Looney Tunes episode that all of a sudden now we're back to, the multiversal threat. But I did think that was interesting. I probably would have fit better in another episode, but I'm still, it's kind of getting me very, I don't know if pumped is the right word, but curious. I'm really curious what they're going to do in that finale of 2 weeks from now. So it's piqued my interest. I will say that. And then I will also say that but I think by the end of the series, the Watcher is just going to basically be Jeffrey Wright. He keeps looking, to me, he looks more and more like Jeffrey Wright every time I see him. I think it's just going to be him at the end. It's just going to be a live action version of him. It's going to be the Watcher. But I don't know. What'd you think about that ending, Rob?
I mean, it definitely cements like that how much of a cartoon this was when the Watcher like basically breaks what if you've already broken the fourth wall, what's beyond the fourth wall? Like him talking to you is breaking the fourth wall. Him having something happen that breaks his fourth wall. What's that, like the eighth wall? Like I
don't know how the math works on that.
Like how do you surprise yeah? But I thought, well, these people are fucked. The party really is over. Because you get Ultron, like Viztron, comes through the using the like space gem, and poor Thor, who's just now got a date with Jane Foster and got away with almost destroying the planet. And now he's probably, he's getting pulled out, he's getting plucked out. I'm sure, like you said in the trailers. But I don't think that the rest of the planet that he comes from, that his universe on, is not going to be very cartoony anymore. I think all those people are done for in this world, at least for now. But I do, as soon as you see Ultron with all the Infinity Stones, it got serious again, and I'm like, oh God, if he could have just been like this the whole time. Because I just kind of felt like, as much as I'm now really more interested in seeing how this all plays out, it just made me more mad that what I had seen, like the previous 25 minutes could have been, if that, like the tonally wise, like the tone shift at the end, just like a record scratch, literally like, party's over, Ultron's here, and he's got all the Infinity Stones, and it's not just Ultron, it's Vision Ultron, like or Ultron if he got the Vision body and then used like an Ultron suit just for armor. I'm very, very excited to see where it goes. I didn't even realize that the next episode was going to be about Gamora. I completely forgot about that, but I don't know what they're going to do. I honestly don't know what they're going to do. I'm excited to see where they're going to go for a second season. I would kind of hope that they tie this together and like start fresh. And do we even have a confirmation of the runtime of the final episode? Because if they could get that runtime of the final episode to, let's say, 42, 43, 44 minutes, I think they could like at least end some of this and set up more for the next one, because we still have Star-Lord and Ego, or Peter Quill and Ego out there. How many different things are they going to throw at us? Is it just going to be Vision Ultron, or is it also going to be zombies? Is it going to be Ego and Peter Quill? Are they going to throw everything at us? But I don't know how much more you can throw at it, because that zombie Thanos had an Infinity Gauntlet. So you got two people with like Infinity Stones and a living planet. So maybe they'll break that stuff up for future seasons. Just long callbacks, like zombies show up later. Ego shows up later, and this, at the end of this, it's stopping Ultron. Because there was, like, in that trailer, I saw different versions of like Black Widow and Hawkeye looking more armored up. But I don't know. I am excited, but my interest in this show is going to hinge on that finale.
Yeah. And real quick, Brandon in the chat. Yes, they announced the second season as soon as they announced the first season. So yeah, we've always known there was going to be a second season. But it'll be interesting if they do just tie up this one story and start anew. But I also think I don't think it's been confirmed, but there's a lot of strong rumors out there that What If will at least tangentially tie into Multiverse of Madness. So there may be a Multiverse of Madness in between the two seasons of What If. Maybe some kind of a bridge. So I'm kind of thinking that I'm thinking they're not going to just completely start anew, but it may also be bringing in elements from Multiverse of Madness, maybe even Spider-Man No Way Home. So it may not be like just a direct sequel of season one. There may be other things that come into it as well. But I could be wrong. I don't know. But Mark, anyway, I didn't get a chance to talk about the ending.
Yeah, so my theory about why the Watchers looks like Jeffrey Wright is because I think he's going to play him in live action. And so they're animating in that way. So when he appears in live action, it will look similar. That's just my theory. But anyway,
you're probably right. You're probably right.
So the ending, I loved. I actually liked the ending. It was my favorite part of the episode because I think it definitely is. I like the fact that the Watcher was caught off guard because that's like a big deal. Especially that's what sets this episode apart from every other episode. He's just even in that Doctor Strange episode when he actually interacted with one of the characters. He's always just, off to the side. He knows what's happening. He knows all he sees, all he's just watching. But here he's just actually caught off guard. And of course, this leads into the big thing that everyone's talking about, and we talked about this before in previous discussions about how a lot of people are saying the Watcher's going to interfere. He's going to interfere, which is his whole thing. And to me, this thing is like, well, his whole thing is not interfering. But if you present like a villain who is changing things they're making things, fucking up the multiverse in a way that is not supposed to happen, because that's what this ending implies. Like, they lived happily ever after. That's what was supposed to happen. But then Vision Ultron comes up and fucks with that. So that, to me, is a good reason for the Watcher to interfere. And I think that is what is setting up, and that the Watcher is going to be the one who gathers this Guardians of the Multiverse in order to stop this Vision Ultron thing.
Could his being taken off guard be, and I'm speculating, but the moment in Loki where the branches take off? Things were going according to plan in this universe, in this cartoony universe, and that's why he didn't see it happening. And that's where it could start to, like, where you talk about where it connects to Multiverse of Madness and the greater MCU a little bit. Again, it's speculation.
Yeah. I think it could be related, but I think more specifically he's caught off guard by this Vision Ultron thing. But the Vision Ultron being able to do this could be related to the event that happened at the end of Loki. And that's how he's able to travel to different multiverses.
Yeah. And I was going to say, Mark, I agree with you that I think the Watcher, and I've thought this for a while just based on the trailers, that I think the Watcher is he's basically going to be Nick Fury. He's going to have the Multiverse Avengers initiative, I guess. He's going to put the team together. I kind of think that too. And yeah, he's going to interfere, and he is going to be responsible for all those different characters from different universes coming together.
Now, I was going to say, as far as the finale and will it tie up all the loose ends, I actually think that they are going to leave some of these episodes ending on like cliffhangers plot, like you mentioned the whole thing with Peter Quill and Ego and all that. I think some of these things I don't think they're all going to be resolved in the finale. I don't think they can be, because there's too many. Even if they made it a 43-minute episode, I think some of these dangling things are going to be touched on again in future seasons too. But I think that the finale will resolve some of these dangling threads, particularly when it comes to like Captain Carter. Like, I think that we're going to and some other things that I don't know, maybe, but I don't see them resolving all of them.
They could not possibly resolve the Killmonger thing. There's just way too much left to be resolved.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they could touch on
it. They ended the episode halfway through the
story. As we talked about last week, it seemed like they were ending it halfway through the story. So there's no possible way they could wrap that up, although it looks like they're going to touch on that again. So I think they're going to touch on everything again. I don't know if they're going to really wrap up anything from the other episodes.
I mean, I do hope that I would prefer that they resolve this Vision Ultron storyline this season and not leave it in the season in a cliffhanger and be like, it's kind of like the way Loki ended, and they're like, oh, what's going to happen next? Like, that would kind of piss me off, because I think What If is a different show. It's always been more episodic and finite, and I think they need to end the season with some sort of finite resolution, but while leaving things open that can still be resolved in future seasons.
Yeah, and I have not seen any runtime anywhere yet. I don't know if that's out there yet. I said the same thing last week that I was hoping for like a 40 to 43, 45-minute runtime. I don't know how they could possibly do it in the normal 30-minute runtime. It just seems like too much. But I have not seen anything official on that yet. All right. Well, I'm about ready to wrap this thing up. Did you guys have any other thoughts before we say our goodbyes?
Oh, no. It's like I told you guys before we started this that it's been a really long day. I've got a lot of stuff going on at work, and so my brain's kind of in and out. So I just want to apologize to anyone if I was rambling there without much of a point at any point, like right now. So no, that's it. That's all I have to say. Sorry, I stroked out a couple of times during this.
Oh, you're fine. You're no more wandering off than I was. Mark, anything else?
I'm trying to think, but I can't come up with anything, so I guess not.
Okay, you'll think of it like as soon as we go off the
air. As soon as we go off the air. For sure.
Happens. All right. Okay, let's say our goodbyes and get out of here. Rob, why don't you tell everyone what you are up to?
So right now, yeah, you can find me at my channel, Smirking Gun Reviews, where we've been doing just whatever we want. Did some Rob's Never Seen, where I'm talking about movies I've never seen, obviously. No, some other guy named Rob comes over, and it just so happens that we haven't seen the same movies together. Walking Dead, Why the Last Man, but this is like, a big, an exclusive. I guess it'll be the first time I'm saying this. Is I've already started recording and putting together Halloween reviews for 2021. I've already got 3 reviews in the bank, ready to go when October hits. I'm going to be going to a con near the end of October. It's a dark horror con here in Illinois. And so last year we did Halloween reviews, had a lot of fun with them. This time we're going to try to even knock out even more Halloween reviews. And a lot of them are going to be kind of like Rob's Never Seen, because I have not seen a lot of horror movies. And so that's going to be the big thing in October is knocking out a lot of good horror movies and scary movies or thrillers or whatever. So look forward to that on my channel. You can also find me on Twitch at Smirking Gun Plays, where we're playing Mass Effect 2, Witcher 3, Batman Arkham City, Lego Batman 3, and we're going to start playing Kano, Bridge of Spirits very soon.
Cool. Mark, what you up to?
So, my channel is Enchantment of Eternity. At the moment, doing weekly episodes of Lower Decks. I usually get them out Friday because I work all day Thursday and then come on here. And so then Friday I'll put out my review of Lower Decks, and then I'm covering of course all kind of Star Trek. I'm doing a rewatch of Better Call Saul. Just rewatching season 5. Such an amazing show, and doing Star Wars Clone Wars. Watching that for the first time. Just watch season 2. Eventually I'm going to start season 3, which Alyssa has me very worried about, but I'll give it a try.
Not my favorite season, but yeah.
I just started a new series on my channel called A Perfect Episode, where I'm taking 10 episodes. They're not necessarily my favorite episodes of all television, but they're 10 episodes that I love, that I really want to talk about, that I don't think are highlighted enough, or that I haven't talked about enough. So I'm just using this as an excuse. This is an amazing episode. I should talk about it more. And so each episode is from a different show. And I'm not doing any Star Trek or Game of Thrones in this series because I've covered that stuff enough already. So 10 other of my favorite different shows. I had my first episode out from that series. It's about the Black Sails season 2 finale, which I think is beautiful, one of the best seasons finales of all time. So every month I'm going to release a new video in that series as well. So really, and also I put in a lot of effort I write out a script and everything rather than just turning off the video. So even though I know hardly anyone's gonna watch it, but that's so good. I think it's a good series and I'm excited about it. But anyway, that's what's going on.
It's a very interesting series, and also Rob's movies that you haven't seen before. That's a very interesting idea as well. Thank you for joining me. My name is Alyssa. This is my channel, Alyssa Jean's Reviews, that you are watching right now. And I've got a lot of Star Trek, Star Wars, MCU content, and various other things that I cover. And like Mark, I am also covering Star Trek Lower Decks weekly. I usually I get to record my review and then I edit it before this and then I edit it after our stream, but I haven't even recorded it yet. But it'll probably be out later tonight. Probably get it out before I go to bed. And then I do drop at least one video every Friday, and tomorrow's video is one I'm very excited about because I've been thinking about it for a year. Like, I didn't have a channel, but I was like, man, when I have a channel again, I'm doing this video. And that is the 10 worst retcons. And
oh, that's a great idea.
It's sci-fi and fantasy, and because when I say sci-fi and fantasy, it's stuff that I cover. So exactly half of the list is from the Star Trek universe. So you got to be familiar with Star Trek, but it was really fun for me to make. And if you enjoy hearing me rant and shout, since it's a top 10, like the retcon gets progressively worse, so it's starting to progressively shoutier. By number 4, I'm like, no, he didn't do that!
You could do one of those for just Star Trek. So it's interesting you did all of sci-fi.
Well, I couldn't think of 10 for Star Trek.
Oh, really?
10 that were really bad. There were some that were really, really bad that weren't Star Trek that I had to talk about. In fact, yeah. So, I decided to do it, for all shows that I have watched. There's a couple of Lost on there as well. So I'm all over the map. So please check that out. That's going to be posted at midnight my time tonight. So early in the morning Friday when you get up, it'll be on my channel. So check it out. And then next week, I'll probably remind you again of this next week, but I'm starting a new series similar to Rob's, but mine is Nostalgia Lane, where it's more going to be a movie that I used to watch a lot, but I haven't seen in a while, and just kind of take a trip down Nostalgia Lane. So that'll be coming next week. So check out all that. And thanks for watching, and we'll see you all soon. Have a good night.